Hey, welcome back everybody. Jeff Frick here with theCUBE. We're at Open Compute Project Summit. It's a mouthful, it's in Santa Clara. It's a 2017 version. It's basically really about the open source spec that was originally part of the Facebook data center spec that they opened up to everybody, and now you've got all the hardware manufacturers, power supplies, fans, everything you can imagine is here, because this is really where they build clouds. This is the thing behind the wall that was somebody else's computer. This is where they're building them. So we're excited to talk to Gary Smerdon. He's the president and CEO of TidalScale. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Absolutely, so there's a lot of big companies here, right? But really the innovation, as we all know, comes from startup. You got a startup, so tell us a little bit about TidalScale for the people who aren't familiar with the company.
Yeah, so TidalScale, we're doing software-defined servers. Now software-defined, that's a pretty common term out there, but software-defined servers is new and it's important, right? We view it as the final missing piece in the software-defined data center. Now the core of our technology is the ability to take 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, even a whole rack of servers and get them to operate as one virtual server. So think of it as kind of the inverse of VMware. VMware, you take a server and you cut it in a bunch of small pieces.
Right.
We are the inverse of that. We take 1, 2, 3, or more, and then to get them to operate as one system. So essentially we can give you the server of tomorrow today by combining kind of standard commodity servers.
Okay, so what are the applications where I would want to bring them together and operate them as one?
Yeah, great question. So there's many applications, but think about big data. In big data, you never have a server that's big enough, right? So we can give you the size of the server that you need. So today, what you have to do is essentially you have to take your data and break it into a bunch of pieces. That's humans that have to do that, spread it over a bunch of machines. We allow the server to be sized to the data.
Interesting, so a little bit about the company, kind of where are you in your growth, delivering product, POCs, give us a little background.
Yeah, so the company was founded in 2012, really got going in 2013.
Okay.
Dr. Ike Nassy came out of retirement. He had done many things in his career, including being the chief scientist and EVP at SAP when HANA and in-memory was all kind of created, okay, and the focus on that. So he founded the company, was able to pull together an amazing team, and from there began to work on and build the technology. Last year we began shipping our first product.
Okay.
So we're actively in POCs with partners, with customers, and really looking forward to taking this broadly into the market.
So what brought him out of retirement? You said, we talked a little bit off camera, he solved a lot of hard problems. Was it just a technological problem? He couldn't sleep at night? Why tackle this really hard problem?
Yeah, so basically, he had a long career working with folks like Gordon Bell, very famous, the father of the VAX and the mini computer, a lot of other things, headed up all the software at Apple. And then the experience at SAP kind of put it all together. When he retired, he realized, my gosh, there's actually something that can be done that's different in how a server is really conceived. We were talking about it, VMware was one of the final, kind of the last big innovations in server technology. We view that this is the next wave, software-defined servers.
Yeah, it's interesting, because where we hear a lot is the software-defined mantra now being applied to networking, right? Software-defined networking, because people said, the compute's already been done, there's a lot of work happening on the storage, now the shift is really on the networking side, but what you're saying, there's a whole nother opportunity, another iteration on the compute side to bring a new level of innovation.
Sure, and this is all really complementary. Software-defined storage, software-defined networking, software-defined, it can be as far as the management, all of that is very complementary, but the final piece that hasn't been software-defined or really mobilized yet is the server itself, and that's the core of our technology. And if you think about it, in the modern data center, that's actually the biggest spend is on the servers. So sometimes you need a small one, sometimes you need a big one, and we have the agility and the ability to basically to size it to the requirement of the data.
Right, and is the use case where you would be dynamically changing that based on the particular workload, or is this something you set and forget, and now you've got this Supermondo server that's dedicated to a particular type of task? Or are you spinning them up and spinning them down depending on what kind of your demand is?
So we can do all of those things, but a very typical case is that somebody comes and says, I need this size of a server, right? And so then at that point you can basically select how many physical servers, 1, 2, 5, and you add up all the memory, all the cores, all the I/O, all of that is what is represented up to the operating system and the application. So, and that can, at boot up basically, in about 4 or 5 minutes, you're up and running with the server of your dreams.
Wow, and what's kind of the overhead what's your loss in terms of the management overhead of multiple from as a percentage of the individual sum of those parts?
Yeah, so it varies a little bit by application, but a typical number when you look at virtualization is people talk about a 5% kind of overhead associated with virtualization. So that's where we start. In some cases, we are actually able to outperform what a bare metal system would be able to do. And again, when you're able to create a system where everything can be put in memory, that's how you get high performance in the application.
Right. So before I let you go, and it sounds like a great story, look forward to learning more, but your impressions on the show here. It's interesting, up in the city today, SAP's on stage with Diane Green talking about HANA on OCP, which is pretty amazing. But down here, this is like the nitty gritty. This is. I feel like I'm in the steam room, with Scotty. This is where they're actually building this stuff. It's not abstracted behind a layer, which is what all the customers up in the city are buying. So just your impressions of the show.
First of all, this is a really exciting show. I was at the very first OCP kickoff that took place at Facebook. So this is a great place where a lot of the best and brightest in the industry get together, right? And that includes developers, it includes partners, and everybody come together. So it has a buzz about it. It's great to be here, and we think this is a great place to really be talking about what we're doing with software-defined servers.
It's great. I actually saw Mark Shuttleworth standing over literally by the water cooler before we went on, had Chris right on. So you're right, there's a lot of big, smart guys that are here.
Yeah, and it's guys like, Canonical with Ubuntu, that runs on top of a software-defined server without any modification. So we run that, we run Red Hat, we run Windows, all of that runs on top of it. And that's a big part of the ease of use that is what really end customers are wanting and needing.
All right, well, Gary, thanks for taking a few minutes of your day. We'll be keeping an eye on you and TidalScale and watch your growth.
Great, hey, appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
He's Gary Smerdon, I'm Jeff Frick. You're watching theCUBE.